It's been a decent amount of time since I found a knife that really caught my attention. Every few months or so, I'll look around on different websites, see what knife companies are making. I like Kershaw, I like CRKT, I like Spyderco. I like pretty much all the knife companies. Cold Steel's my go-to. I really like Cold Steel, but I like all knife companies for different things. But it's been a long time since I found a knife that really jumped out at me. These knife companies, that one's kind of cool, that one's pretty decent, and then I look at their new 2021 lineup, and that's okay, that one's kind of cool, that one's interesting, but I've had knives like that before. Nothing was really speaking to me. Nothing was like, Ben, please, buy me. I wasn't really getting that. Until I saw the Kershaw Strata XL. Now, if you know me, if you know Mannix, I like XL folders. I like really big knives. In fact, on my table right here, I have a few others I can show you. I was just using for comparison reasons. I'm trying to knock out a few reviews right now. But I finally saw a knife that wasn't Cold Steel that was stepping up to the XL knife game. The only other ones that did that I can think of were SOG with their Pentagon Elite, with their Spec Elite years ago. They don't make those anymore, I don't believe, but there's not a whole lot of other knife companies that really make these big old ridiculous huge XL knives. And here we go. We have the Strata XL. We also have the normal Strata. So if you don't like the size of this knife, but you like pretty much everything about it, you can look at that one. I believe it's a 4-inch blade. But let's get the specs out of the way. Speaking of which, we have a 6.6-inch handle length right here. The blade is 5.4 inches. So it's, wow, almost approaching a 6-inch blade. That's really, really long. Overall length, a foot on the nose. We have 5.8 ounce weight. They say my scale says 5.75 ounces. Not really a big deal. D2 bead blasted steel right there, and I believe that's a flat grind. Wow, beautiful. Beautiful. Frame lock, by the way, stainless steel. It has a G10 slab on the other side right here. Interesting cutouts and patterns right here. They call these copper. I don't know if it's authentic copper. I doubt it. I think it's copper anodized aluminum. Maybe? I don't see why they use actual copper. But either way, let's just call these the copper bolsters. Really nice touch right there. It's very kind of Iron Man looking. It's cool. Really cool looking knife overall. It looks nothing like most of what Kershaw does. Kershaw has a very simple design they usually go with, as far as I understand. They try some new things out here and there, and this is an example of something new they tried out. It really jumped out at me. I kind of like the future-y look to it. But then the size is what sold me. And the price, I forgot. The price and the size is what sold me. This was not a $200 knife. It retails at $129.99, but I scored this for about $68. Went to a Shields the other day, and they had one for $75, which is not a bad price either. It's around the $70 price range, I would say. Not cheap, but it's not expensive either. I mean, everyone's got a different idea of what expensive or cheap or affordable, whatever you want to call it, is, or rip-off. Everyone's different. Everyone's got their different opinions. But for me, that's not too bad. It's approaching the expensive side, but it's not an expensive knife. To me, once you hit the $100 range and go up, that's when I start to get a little wary of buying a knife. I don't like to spend too much more than $100 on a folder. But other people don't want to spend any more than $25 on a folder, so who am I to say? Some people don't mind spending $400 on a folder. But either way, it's a D2 blade steel right there, and that's where a lot of the money's going. They could have made this knife even more affordable. I mean, yeah, we have a really long blade right here, but the handle's simple. There's not a whole lot else going on other than just a simple, steel frame lock right here. It's tip-up carry only. We'll talk about the pocket clip in a minute. G10, we got some complicated cutouts right here, but again, it's very slim, and it's a flipper only. But it's that D2 blade steel that I would argue really brings the price on this guy up. Otherwise, they could have got away with maybe like $45 or $50 if they used AUS 8 or 8-13 MOV. They could have brought it down even lower. But because we have a higher quality blade steel that will retain its edge longer, we definitely jack up the price a little bit too. Again, the steel is the business end of the knife. Now, I really like this knife. It called out to me. It was just something different. I usually don't even read reviews or watch reviews on knives. I just buy one if it looks cool to me and if it's affordable and I like the company. I just buy the knife and I come up with my own opinion. So that's what I did. And I like this knife a lot, but there's certainly a few things I don't like about it. It's not my favorite knife ever, but I gotta hand it to Kershaw. They did a good job making a very slim yet very long knife right here. It's a little confused as far as what it wants to do, like, as far as the philosophy of this knife's use is. Like, what is its purpose? It's a little weird. I'll get into that in a minute too. But One thing that I will say is very good about this knife is despite being nearly a 5.5-inch blade, which is insane, by the way. I would say anything above 5 inches is an XL sized folder. 4 inches is already large, but anything above that, we're approaching XL size. This is definitely an XL length folder, but what's very impressive is how slim it is. Did I get the weight? Yeah, I did, 5.8 ounces. That's pretty light. It's a sub 6 ounce knife for a 5.5 inch blade, just about. That's pretty impressive. We have a very good belly. It's a clip point, bead blasted, D2. D2 is close to VG10 as far as performance goes, as far as I know. I don't have a whole lot of experience cutting stuff to the point where I notice a few minutes of more use I can get out of a certain blade still and compared to another as far as edge retention goes. I just don't cut with my knives enough. I keep them on me. I do some test cutting, and I strop them a bit when I'm done using them, and occasionally I open up a package or two each day with the knife, but most of the time I don't cut that much stuff because as far as my job goes, as far as my everyday use goes, I don't need to cut that much stuff. So I don't really notice if a steel is really good or really bad as far as edge retention goes because I'm not cutting all day. Most of you watching this are not either. Most of you watching a video like this are just interested in folding knives and you want to get another one for your collection. And that's totally fine. That's really awesome. That's me. I do carry my knives for defense and for emergency situations as well, but I just think knives are cool. I think it's a fun hobby. I like to collect them. And that's pretty much the reason why I don't use my knives so much to the point that I actually notice a difference in higher quality blade steels, which is one of the reasons why I tend to gravitate towards more affordable knives. And again, by affordable, I mean around the $50 price range. I don't normally get $200, $300, $400 knives because I just don't need really high quality blade steels. And that's where most of the money, I would say 60% of the price of a knife is coming from its blade steel. The one part of the knife I don't use that much. But anyway, despite being such a long blade, it's relatively light and it's slim. This is probably the slimmest 5.4 inch blade length knife I've ever had. That's a really slim knife right there, which is both a good and a bad thing for this knife's philosophy of use. And to me, XL knives, big old knives mean survival, martial, like fighting blade / defense. I think of hard use or life or death situations when it comes to a giant folding knife like this. When it comes to EDC or I need to open up a package, I think of something like this, a 3-inch blade. You could argue even that's too long for some tasks. You could probably get away with a 1-inch blade with our everyday tasks, probably, generally speaking. But when I see something like this big, then I think of defense. And we don't have a great traction plan on this guy. It's okay. The G10 cutters, it's pretty smooth. This feels kind of like the Spyderco Tenacious line G10. But this will wear with use. We have basically no grip right here. It's smooth. They don't texture this part of the G10. Then we have a cutout, which allows for your thumb to kind of slip down here and your index finger to be just a little bit more comfortable right there. There's a lot of attention to detail and design with this knife. You see another, almost looks like sanding right here. It's not. It's just the way they cut it, or they layer it anyway. Very beautiful pattern right here. It's very cool. Again, very futuristic looking. And then we have just the copper bolster right here with notches cut out. It's just sort of the icing on the cake for me. Then we have another one in the back here, which also doubles as a lock bar stabilizer, so you can't overextend it, which is becoming more and more common with frame locks, which I love. I love having that little stabilizer right there. Comfortable knife to hold. Not the most comfortable. Again, I'm not a huge fan of slim knives. I prefer thicker handles. I like having more to grip onto. But as far as carryability goes and its lightweightness goes, if that's even a word, I don't think it is, it's excellent. This keeps the knife easier to carry despite being so long, and it keeps it less obtrusive, it's less heavy in your pocket, it'll fit easier, it's easier to reach for other things in your pocket while this is clipped. The pocket clip works amazingly. It's a really sweet design. It really matches the lines and the curves of the handle right here. Look how narrow that handle gets right there. Wow, it's like a little banana. Gets really, really narrow, but it just perfectly fits that blade. We have almost a 1-to-1 ratio right here. Well, not really, but you're not going to cut yourself on the tip right there. Attention to detail, we have more copper-style pillars right here. It's very elegant looking, very easy to clean. Very simplistic, elegant folder right here. It's kind of futuristic looking again. Personally, I wish it was thicker. I wish there was more to hold on to. I wish there were thumb studs to flick. I wish the flipper was a little more big, a little more easier to get to. I'll talk about that in just a moment right here. But overall, for what it's meant to be, slim and lightweight as far as such a ridiculously long blade goes, this is kind of a monumental feat, actually, I would say. This is very impressive. So good on ya, Kershaw. And again, if you think this knife's too long, it probably would make more sense just to get their smaller version, the regular Kershaw Strata. But I like the XL. I love giant folders. I think they're cool, so that's what I got. Kind of a lip right here, as you can see, which sort of acts as a guard for your pinky. I feel pretty secure despite not having too much traction on here or not much jimping or whatever you want to call it. By the way, the jimping right here on the spine works really well. This pattern, we have sort of a rolled spine. It's not a smooth spine, but there's two cutouts on the side, which almost makes like a trapezoid. It's a somewhat rounded spine. That's another attention to detail. Again, a lot of elegant attention to detail on this folder. So maybe I shouldn't just say it's not just the D2 blade steel that jacks up the price, although that's a big part of it. It's not a cheap blade steel. It's not super expensive, but it's not cheap either. There's a lot of attention to detail in the cutouts right here, and they got to stop their machines. They got to cut them in certain ways. They have to put more time into developing this knife, and time is money. So that probably equates to the knife being more expensive as well. So yes, it's not bad as far as like defense goes. This is enough to grip onto. I prefer thicker knives for defense and grippier knives for defense. Steel frame locks are not the best. Frame locks are pretty strong if you're holding it in a normal position like this, but otherwise it's not too much stronger than a liner lock. Most people would not consider liner locks great for defense, but liner locks, you know, more or less they are strong enough. You don't need a triad lock. You don't need a side actuating lock or anything like that. These will work just fine. You'd have to be screwing up pretty bad to have this disengage on you. But that being said, it's not the strongest as far as defense goes, and if you were in a defensive situation, you'd want to hold lower down here for more reach, but you could hold up here if you wanted to. That's fine, and you'll have a stronger grip on the lock anyway. We have a very short guard right here. I prefer having larger guards, again, when it comes to defense, but very good for utility. I mean, if it was shorter, yeah, but this clip point is very proven. D2 is a very good working steel. It has very good edge retention. It's decent rust resistance. It's kind of a complex blade steel to make. It's not simple. It's not just like, you know, carbon, chromium, and then there's a couple other things. There's like 7 other elements in there. Vanadium, I can't even remember all of them, but it's a very good blade steel, and it's expensive for a reason. Again, not super expensive, but this is a higher end than your average AUS 8, AUS 10, VG1, ATR 13 MOV, 440C. It's going to be above all those by far. I'm surprised they put that on here, because usually defensive knives, you can get away with a cheaper steel because you're not going to use it very much unless you're in that one, heaven forbid, situation that comes up in your life, or hopefully never comes up in your life. But either way, so again, it's kind of contradictory to me, some of the choices they made with the design. But overall, I still like it, and I'm still happy with it. It's very elegant and kind of futuristic. I like the attention to detail. We also have the KVT ball bearing system on this, guys. There's ball bearings in there, which keep this knife really, really smooth and fast. The blade is gliding on ball bearings. Amazing. So you don't even need any wrist movement. You can flick the knife open. But here's my next gripe. They're trying to keep this knife more covert, so there's not a very obtrusive flipper right there. It is jimped, as you can see, but good luck trying to open it with your fingertip. There's just not enough. There we go, I got it, but I was on kind of a weird angle. If I give it a really good wrist flick, okay, now I can open it pretty easily. Not that hard, but if I'm just trying to open it without a wrist flick, which the ball bearing system should allow you to do, it's not easy to do unless I use the side of my finger right here, not my actual fingertip, right here. That's what I use to open this knife up, and it's different from most flipper knives. So it does open up easily with practice, and once you develop a callus on there, at first you're probably going to injure your index finger opening this up. Because your fingertip, good luck, without any wrist movement, you're going to really hurt your finger right there. It's just coarse. It's hard to get to. I wish there was more of a flipper right there. But again, it goes flush underneath the handle right there, which is elegant, I think. So that adds to the elegance of this knife. Again, not terribly expensive. $70 is good. We have a really good blade steel right here. We have a ball bearing system, which keeps the blade very smooth, and it keeps it actuating very smoothly and quickly. Don't need much wrist movement. Pocket clip, almost forgot to mention. Because of how small and covert and loop over it is, holy crap, it doesn't look like you have anything being carried on you. Nothing. It looks like a tiny little folding knife. Some people might think it's a pen or something, but you're actually carrying a 5.4-inch blade on you. No one's going to see that coming, and that's really cool, I think. So, again, very impressive. I like the trapezoid kind of cut out right here. Again, I like the lock bar stabilizer. It looks like we have an internal, I just noticed this now, I think this is an internal stop pin for the blade. As you can see, there's no exposed stop, and normally you'd see one right there, but it's inside of there too, which is cool. So, now overall as far as function goes, I would honestly just go with the smaller Strata. You'll save a little bit of money, and it makes a little bit more sense functionality-wise. But as far as coolness-wise, I like this XL Strata, just because it's such a huge knife, and there's not many other companies other than Cold Steel that make these guys. So that's it. That's the Strata XL. I'm excited about it. I was very interested in it. I'm glad I bought it. I'm glad it's part of the collection. It'll sit next to all of the Cold Steel Homeboys very nicely. And if any other knife companies want to come up with some big old knives, please do. You're more than welcome to. It's just a little bit contradictory, as far as how slim it is and how it kind of lacks a traction plan. It's not the easiest to open up. It's not that hard either, but it's not easy. I get it. They're trying to make it smooth and elegant and kind of classy and interesting. And, and as far as that goes, it makes it. But overall, it's a little confused to me. I wish it was a little bit more all or the other. However, at the same time, that is what makes this knife very interesting, isn't it? We have a very classy, futury, slim, yet very long, capable knife right here. Interesting. Very, very interesting, innovative knife. So that is it. That is the Kershaw Strata XL.